Halawani from Palestine. Greetings to everyone who has joined in today. My name is Lynn Snej, and I am the director of the Arts and Culture Center at the Middle East Institute. I want to welcome you all to today's conversation between Layla Abdelhadi Jadallah, the curator of our current photography exhibition, More Than Your Eyes Can See, Contemporary Photography from the Arab World, and one of our participating photographers, Rula Halawani from Palestine. The program is special today, not only because of our esteemed guests and the incredible work, career, and trajectory of Rula Halawani, one of the region's most established photographers, but also because this is the last public program around our current exhibition before it closes this Thursday, November 17th. If you are in DC and you have not seen the show yet, you have a couple of days left. So please stop by. Our gallery is open Mondays to Fridays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is really a beautiful show and a testament to the talent of photographers from the Middle East. You can make an appointment on our site, www.mei.edu, or just walk in. The exhibition is also available to view online, although nothing beats seeing it in person, of course. In fact, if you are in DC, you can also join us for this Thursday's Art Walk open house. We will be open until 8 p.m. this Thursday, November 17. So if you are around, please stop by and come celebrate with us the closing of this beautiful exhibition and celebrate the work of the 15 participating artists in this show who employ photojournalism and fine art photography to explore through their work notions of place, identity, the environment, youth culture, and more. And they provide this intimate, personal take on those issues and offer a different lens through which to see the Middle East region. We have been animating the exhibition since it opened on June 3rd, 2022, with similar conversation, panels, podcasts, and taking part in several events in DC to bring people into our gallery and engage with us online. Around 2,500 people have come through our doors since the exhibition opened, and not counting many of you who have engaged with our public programming online. We are, of course, very grateful to our curator, Layla Abdelhadi Jadallah, who has woven this beautiful show together, but also to our partners, Tribe, a publication and platform focused on documenting photography, video, and new media from the Arab world. And they have been both very instrumental in making this show happen. This project was a true collaboration between MEI and Layla Abdelhadi Jadallah and Tribe. We are so grateful to everyone who's worked with us to make this the success it's been. We are, of course, most grateful to all of the artists who have participated in the show and shared their work with us. If you're interested in our work and you want to learn more about us, you can find out more about MEI's Arts and Culture Center and about our exhibitions and programming on www.mei.edu Arts and Culture. Turning to our program today, we are so honored to host artist and photographer Rula Halawani and curator Layla Abdelhadi Jadallah, who will be moderating this conversation. I'll introduce our speakers briefly before I turn it to Layla, who will lead us into this conversation. Rula Halawani is a photographer based in Jerusalem. Halawani began her artistic career by registering the difficulties of living under a protracted political conflict. Halawani's early works capture the many aspects of this reality. After several years of photographing the stark imagery and the everyday lives of Palestinians living under the occupation, Halawani increasingly focused on the spatial implications of the occupation by documenting its built environments and structures that serve as one of its central mechanisms. In addition to her artistic practice, she is also the founding director and an associate professor of the photography program at Birzeit University, where she continues to mentor many. Her photographs are housed in international collections, such as Centre Georges Pompidou in Paris, Nadur Collection, Germany, Victoria and Albert Museum, London, the British Museum, London, the Khalid Shuman Foundation, Amman, and the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston, amongst many others. Thank you, Rula, for being with us today for this special program. Layla Abdelhadi Jadallah is an arts administrator, exhibition producer, curator, and researcher working in Washington, D.C., whose work in the arts has spanned exhibition development, communications, and cultural heritage. She has managed, produced, and curated more than 20 exhibitions nationally with museums, galleries, and other partners. Jadallah is the director of programs at the Qatar America Institute for Culture, and before that, she held several positions in various arts institutions. Thank you, Layla, for being with us as well this morning from DC. Before I hand it over to Layla, a few housekeeping notes for our viewers. Our moderator looks forward to taking your questions through the Zoom Q&A feature that you see on the bottom of your screens. And for those calling in by phone or watching our panel on the live stream, you can ask a question by emailing events@mei.edu. And if you have any technical issues, please email events@mei.edu. Feel free to ask a question anytime throughout the conversation, and Layla will incorporate as many as possible in our limited time. With that, I would like to turn this into the capable hands of our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Lean, for the generous introduction. It's an honor and a true pleasure to share a space today with Rula, Halawani, and everybody who is tuning in online. As a Palestinian and a student of photography, Rula's work, I know, touches me and many other generations of Palestinians and artists from the region and elsewhere. So Rula, why don't we get started by asking, by asking you, let's go back to the beginning and how you came to photography and the path that you've been on for the past few decades.
Actually, I went to university in Canada when I finished high school. I studied math and physics. My father was hoping that I would study engineering or medicine, but it was not me. I discovered photography just when I was going into my 4th year of math and physics. And I loved it so much, like from the beginning. And I decided, like from the first day I discovered photography, that I want to become a photographer. And like my work from the beginning at the university was about Palestine. Like I did stories from my first year about Palestine. Like I did this collage series about like the wars that happened in Palestine when I was in my first year photography. I was watching the news from there. And my minor was beside photography, sculpture. I also made like sculptures, and I broke them. And I told the story about the wars of Palestine, like this sculpture, like it symbolizes, like it was to me, like I was in 2nd year photography, and the sculpture, like it symbolizes like the wars, like the tree is moving, and we are like the sculpture also breaks down, which talks about like how's like the wars are destroying us until we vanish, and nobody, you know, like trying to solve the problem of the occupation. Since the beginning, like I did experimentations and I told the story about Palestine. And when I came back to Palestine, you want me to continue?
Yes. So you returned to Palestine after living abroad and talking about Palestine for over 6 years from a distance. And so can you talk about what was happening when you returned and how your work evolved?
When I came back to Palestine, I didn't visit Palestine for almost 6 years because of the first Intifada. Like my family was telling me all the time, why don't you finish and come back your education? And I ended up staying longer because I did a second BA in photography and sculpture. So when I came back to Palestine, like everything to me looked different. When I left, like there was no Intifada. It was kind of not, the life was not normal, but it was like very different. Me, myself also changed a lot. So I decided to do photojournalism because I really wanted to understand the people. I wanted to understand what's going on in the country. And I wanted like to be close to the people and hear their stories. Actually, in the beginning, like I could not understand why people die for the land. I even like after every funeral, I would come back home and tell my family why people die for the land. The people are more important than the land. Why don't you go live somewhere else? My father would tell me, Rula, don't say that. Like the people need a land to live on. Like without the land, how would they live? Where would they go? The land is as important as the people. And for me, it was different. Like I could never, after a funeral or I see a woman grieving or arresting or beating, I could never like leave my feelings on the side and just act as somebody who just document anything sees on film. And I could not do that. So I struggled, but I kept taking pictures because I really wanted to understand more what's happening. So, and there was a lot of stories that I witnessed, like this woman, her land was confiscated and she planted an olive tree on the land. Everybody left from the demonstration. She stayed, she kept touching the olive tree and crying. And, anybody like that, I would talk to them and I understand their story and what happened, even though I was a spot news photographer. But it did not suit me until I witnessed this 17 years old boy died in front of me in Hebron. I knew the boy, like I met him on the streets of Hebron. When I went back to the office where I was working, and I developed the film, like I saw like he died and there's a stone in his hand. After that day, I decided I don't want to do photojournalism. I want to do the story in a different way. I want to experience situations, as I want to live situations. I want to kind of build history of what I see, like people when they see it 20 years from now, they understand what I witnessed, what I created. The death of the boy also like taught me the land. After that I started to understand like the land is as important as the people. Like the people need the land to live on, and the land needs its people. So things that I enjoyed during photojournalism is documenting the people's life, everyday life. This part, like I really enjoyed it, especially when I see people happy. So, and I documented their stories, the way they live. After that, I left the country and I went, I went, did some residences, artist residences in France, in Britain, and in the US, in Chicago. And then after that, I decided to do my master's and I wanted to teach and, work on my art after my master's. And that's what I did. I came back in the year 2001. And shortly after that, after a few months, I arrived. The big incursion happened in the West Bank. I saw it on TV while I was watching with my family, and then I told my family I want to go out and document the war. My family said, "No, you're not going. You're not a photojournalist. You're the teacher now, and you said you want to work on your art." My dad Like, I remember his face, like he died now 8 years ago. I remember his face, like standing at the door and telling me, Rula, come back. It's a war. I said, I never seen a war. I want to see a war. I want to document a war. He said, you said you quit photojournalism. I said, no, I want to do it, Dad. And I left. And of course, Baba was very, very upset. He didn't want me to do it. He was worried. And I was out for a month documenting the incursion. I know this incursion, like I could have shown the pictures as regular photojournalistic documentary images, but I made them black and I made them negatives because of what I had seen. Everything looked dark in my side, on my eyes. Everything looked black in my eyes. I smelled the death in Jenin camp under the rubble, and like people grieving, people screaming. It was the last news I ever done in my life. I didn't go back to news after the negative incursion. It was my last piece, but it's something was like the most difficult thing I ever did in my life.
Yes, much of your work on negative incursion seems like it was the start of your pushing the envelope and kind of tying back to the experimentation you did during your undergraduate years in Canada, and this like pushing the envelope of traditional methods of photography, as well as speaking to the relationship between photography, storytelling, and the landscape of Palestine. So can you share more about how you began to tell the stories of the land? As you mentioned, that was something you began paying attention to.
Now most of my pictures are about the land. Because I became so attached to the land. Actually, it happened after I understood why my people are so attached to the land. And after I witnessed like so many of them like die for this land. So I started to respect the land and to love the land more than ever before. And, you know, of course, I love the people who live on this land as much. But after that, like, actually the stories that I am now telling, end of the day, they are about me and about my people and about the land. But how I do it, I live a situation, I experience it, and many of the projects, they come to me. Like I see something, I do a story, I unfold it in a story, and I do a lot of research, I do a lot of experimentations. And now it's becoming more and more. But the landscape of Palestine, I'm becoming very much attached to it, and I want to do more and more stories. This is one of my this was done after the negative incursion, and it's about the settlements. I was driving to the university to teach in the year after the incursion, and they were talking about, on the news about freezing the settlements and about the peace process or whatever remained, from it. And then I saw them like putting a new post for a settlement on the way to the University Birzeit near Ramallah. So I decided to do this project. I did it with the Loma camera that take 4 images, and I did the project while I was driving. Of course, like with every project, I experiment with different cameras, and now the experimentation is becoming more and more. They are 6 images. In the final image, like I kind of wiped them. I didn't want to see them in the West Bank because they're destroying every hope like we can have peace on this land. So of course I destroyed them in the photos, but in reality, of course, they are still there. Like I vanished them kind of. And then I did a series about the wall. I started to photograph the wall like the minute they started building it, like the wall is the apartheid wall. I mean, like it's between, like Palestine that was occupied in 1948, kind of, and Palestine that was occupied in 1967, and between Jerusalem, you can say, and between Gaza and the West Bank. But each time, like I started to photograph it at night. Maybe I wanted to let this huge, ugly construction that I am not scared of it. But each time I developed the films, I didn't get to do like the story that I really wanted to do about this wall. So I kept experimenting with other cameras. I had exhibition in Amsterdam, and when I was at the airport, I found this little camera, very, very small, tiny, like this. And it's a digital one. So I decided I want to do my project with this camera. And I felt like standing, like I'm short, like standing in front of this huge wall with this little camera. It's kind of, it was really interesting to me. And the pictures, like they turned out very pixelated. I kept photographing, and of course, with every series, I tell a story. But many times, I don't tell that story. I want the people like to discover what I mean. Like here, for example, it symbolizes war. It was just like a fire in the area. Like to me, like this photograph like symbolizes the water that was stolen from all over Palestine and everywhere else from the settlements. What I liked about this camera, it doesn't register anything because it's a very small file. When the sun is reflected on something, it's kind of it's wiped off. So, and the trees that were uprooted, I found this tree, so I photographed it because it symbolizes the trees that were uprooted. And this is like the standing. This was all the beginning, like of the building of the wall. So experimentations is what I like to do. So sometimes I feel like my math and physics and chemistry, all what I studied in all of those years didn't get wasted. Like I could use them now. I build my lenses. I experiment with films. I experiment with cameras. And then later, I did this project about the depopulated villages. The Israelis depopulated before 1948, around 1948, when Israel existed and occupied Palestine. And I collected like very old images of the sites of those villages, like as a statement, to say like we were here. And then I photographed the site here because, many Israelis still in their books, they say land without people for people without land. And this is actually one of the things that interested me in the landscape, like dealing with the landscape over and over, is giving this statement like we were here. And we had civilization, and we had beautiful villages, we had beautiful land, and we love this land more than you guys. So I did this series about the changes of the landscape. And some of the images, like they were hard to find. Like, for example, this, I drove on this road back and forth many times until I discovered this thing became under the road. And actually there was garbage around it in the site. So, and this village Tantura, and so on. And this is Safuriye. And this like says a strong statement, because the Israelis, when they occupied those villages, when they demolished them, they planted trees, snowbird trees. I don't know, I can't remember.
Pine nut, yes.
Yeah, pine nut trees all over the places to hide the villages. But of course, whatever they hide, it is still there. Some of the remains. It is still of the small villages.
Yes.
Um,
So as you mentioned, your work is very experimental and what you've shared with the project so far, and it's becoming increasingly more personal. The first with this series about your father, and another one following. That's one of your works is included in More Than Your Eyes Can See. That is about your mother, and so it seems like there's this interplay between documenting the changes in the landscape, the erasure, but also the role of our ancestors and our parents and family in shaping how you view the landscape and about it. So would love to hear more about these very personal series that you have been working on over the past few years.
On those three series. For my father, I did it like like I went with my siblings. We went on a trip up north Palestine. And then we were arguing like this site, my father used to take us there to swim in the Mediterranean Sea and have lunch there, barbecue, and all of the kids together, and, you know, and family reunion. And when we got there, like we were arguing. No, when we were little, we used to spend some time here, you know, we were arguing about the place. So I decided I want to do something about this, you know, about the land. And then I decided, since my father, you know, I loved my father, and my father, like, he's the one who like, you know, like his last years with me, he spent so much time with me, and we talked so much about the land and about occupation, about his memories in Palestine, and blah blah blah. So I decided like to devote this project for my father and to do it with his eyes. When we were little, he used to take us like all over Palestine and show us the land and talk to us about the land, and he just enjoyed so much, like letting his children you know, love and respect the land and stuff like this. And so I went back to the places that my father used to take us, and I photographed them, and I like, and then my statement was a letter to him, and with his quotes, like he used to, like when he was dying, no, when we were little, he used to say, like he always said, like, I hope you will have better days than what we had, but of course we didn't. And he always, you know, when he was about to die, he said a quote that left so much in me. He said, when life is about to end, it feels like you went somewhere, had a cup of coffee, a short visit with somebody, and like it's so short. And you know, and then I told him about what happened and the changes, and I told him I went back to those memories, and I documented them on film. And you know, I told him, like, really, because when I finished like this project, like I felt like I'm a stranger in my own home. And I told him at the end, like, to rest in peace. For this project, like, I did a lot of experimentations with the, like, it's kind of pinhole and infrared feelings, but at the same time I used a lot of filters, and it was not really a pinhole with a lens that I created, and I put it, and I use it to get this feeling. Many of the pictures, you see them in Julan. Julan was very important to me as a child, because when I was a little girl, when I was 15 years old, my father took me and my sister to Syria. And when we were in Syria, he told us, like, part of Syria is occupied by Israel, and we were so shocked to know that. And when we came back to Palestine, he took us to the Julan Heights, and he showed the Syria from Julan Heights. So to me, like of course in Julan, I couldn't remember like the exact spot where I went because it changed a lot, but I took a lot of pictures like this picture is in Julan. The series also talk not just about the changes about the land. Of course, it talks mainly about the changes of the land, but also it talks like, for example, when we were little, we used to go to Ain Soda, to this place. It's near Tabariyas, and like there were like so many people, Palestinians from the West Bank, Gaza, all over. But now, like since they built the wall, people cannot reach those sites. So mainly, most of the people were Israelis. So this is also in the Julan Heights. You will find many pictures. Julan Heights. This is in Kawkab al-Hawa. It's very high. It's a depopulated village where it has amazing, the best, like it's one of the highest points in Palestine where you can see like it's amazing view. It's a beautiful view, and that village itself, like I read a lot about it. Like I like to read and research. You know, some people like lived on. It was very high up. Some people like just left the village to go to Hajj or to get you know, the stuff their needs or animals, and so you know, like this is also from Kawkab al-Hawa. The same spot, Kawkab al-Hawa. And this is like in Yafa. My father used to love to watch the sunset there. And there was a Jewish cemetery and a Christian cemetery from both cemeteries. I took pictures in both cemeteries, and then I choose this one. So yeah, my interest in landscape and experimentations, and you know, like it's becoming like more now more personal. Like I finished this in 2015. It's for my father, and then I did one for my mother. And you know, like when we were little, we used to go to Lifta, this depopulated village, which I photographed there a lot. You know, when my father took us there when we were little, there was a lot of Palestinians swimming in the pool, and now it was just all Israelis. And you know, and the series go on about, you know, the changes like this. I remember it was just, you see the sea and it was empty. It was a long beach, and now they're just building like ugly settlements. And this is about, you know, the wall that's dividing Palestine. The wall, like, it's not just dividing Palestinians from Israelis, it's dividing Palestinians from Palestinians too. So this goes back to the Julan Heights. And then, you know, when I was about to, like when I finished actually for my father, I was so happy to show it to my mother. I told my mom, Mama, I want to show you this project. I did it for Baba. Why don't you just look at it with me? And I explained to you what it's all about. She said, Rula, this project is so beautiful. I love it. And it's very, very touching. I'm so happy that you did it. She looked at me and she said, are you going to do one for me when I die? I said, no, Mama, don't talk about death. I want to do one for you now. And you're going to help me to do it. You're going to talk to me. I'm going to do it in your eyes. I want to do it from your quotes. And unfortunately, once I started working on the project, she had 2 strokes and she became totally paralyzed, and she doesn't talk or move or anything. She's still the same. Of course, she's not going to, unfortunately, recover. But I talked to her about, you know, a little bit what I want to do. I wanted to do it like in a different experience that I had when my mom, when I was little, even my siblings also always remember that. Like whenever something big happened in the country, invasion or killing, or they confiscate the land, or they build a settlement or whatever, she just used to say the same quote: whatever they do to us, it doesn't matter how much they demolish our houses, they kill our children, they take our land, they confiscate our land, they kill us all, we're not going to leave this land. Never. We die in it. And even when we die, our souls will not leave this land, will stay in the skies of Palestine and will stay on the land. So I did this project, through her eyes, and of course, I wanted to use for this project like old photographs of Palestinians who lived on this land, and those Palestinians, like I wanted like not to use recent pictures of the people who died like on this land, like in the last 20 or 30 years. I wanted to use over 100 years ago, like as old as I can. And I collaged them, I photographed different sites in Palestine, all over Palestine, and I put them as souls, melting in the skies of Palestine. Some of those images, like they're collaged from many, like this picture, it's a collage from different pictures. Like it's not one picture that I found, but I put it together, and I photographed a lot of skies, and I put the skies on the top of the people, and I faded them in the sky. And I wanted portraits, like I wanted strong portraits, like I wanted like the people who look at this, like feel pride and feel like we are still, and we're not going to leave this land. We will remain there as souls even after we die. So this is Lifta again. This is a family. This is a family. It's not collaged from different pictures, but I did a lot of experimentations until I decided how I want to do this project. Usually, like experimentations take with me a long time. After this project, I'm doing another project. It's for my friends. Two friends who were so important to me. One died young, one died old. And like to me, for my father and for you, mother, and for my friends, I don't know, like if I type, I still like in the research, I don't know if I want to title it for my friends, but the first series was for my father. The second series was for you, mother. And there's going to be a third series. It's all one project, but it's done like after I finish the third one, it will be like 8-9 years all together that it took, because I like to live, the situation. I like to experiment. I like to read. I like to research. I take time with my projects. I take time, like I want them to be unique and original, and I want, so that's why they take longer than they should. And this is the picture you have in the exhibition of, it's collaged. It's not one picture of the children and the father. It was not easy to find strong portraits, but there are a lot of strong portraits, but I wanted, I wanted like portraits that when you look at the picture, they look at you, like they say something to you. So, and this project, after I finished it, I wanted to do a second part for my mother, because and it's finished, and now it's going to we're going to exhibit it in January in Dubai at my gallery, and then in Qatar. This project, it's also for my mother. I still didn't write the statement, but I just finished the project and it went to printing. And this one, I did a lot of experimentations. The series, like my mother, when we were little, she used to take us with her to school where she teaches. She used to teach in school in the suburb of Jerusalem. We didn't have a school on Sundays. She would take us there, and we would wander, on the mountains around the village. she would allow us like to collect chamomile, to collect other herbs for teas and stuff. But she always would not allow us to pick up the flowers. She used to always to say to us like, you can have one flower if you want to read a book and you put it inside the book, but not more than that. But she used also to admire all the time like how the Palestinians divided their lands with those salasil, the little walls, and how they protected their land with those salasil. She loved those, and she always admired nature. The images were not taken in the spot where the village is, where I used to village, because I wanted, because there is just a settlement on that mountain, and I didn't want to have pictures of a settlement, to tell the story. So I went to a depopulated villages and I did my images. I did a lot of experimentations. This is negative, a huge negative that I destroyed. Before I shot the images. And of course, it takes a lot of films I liked, the stains of the red. Some people read them blood, some people read them something else. But I told the story, like, it just like how she admired those walls and how she admired nature and how she used to love to spend her time in those places. And those places, they're all, vanished. They're not there anymore, which is really, really sad. And I don't want to touch, like take anything out of the damage, like the yellow stains, like whatever, the film was damaged. I want to leave it the way it is. In those the photos I shot in those villages. And they're not in the same village. They are in different villages. This is in Suba. The other one was in Lifta. And, they're all depopulated villages. And, the sad thing, like the villages, you go there, you feel they're so sad, because you feel like how the villagers, like, they took care of them. They protected them, and they loved them. And all of a sudden, the Israelis came and took the land and they kicked them all out. So it's sad. It's sad.
So Rula, thank you so much for sharing this new part of the series. So something is coming up for me as I'm looking at this work with you. The one beginning with for my father is how you can turn something so ugly as the occupation and the effects it has on the people and the land in particular into something beautiful and haunting at the same time. Do you think that there's something there about?
I think it's haunting. It's very haunting, and it's very scary, and it's very sad. I don't know. You're sure they look beautiful? I don't know.
I mean, I think they invite viewers to question and to look more closely. Yes, I know when people have come to see the exhibition and see the work For You Mother, they oftentimes they stare at it, and it takes them a few minutes to realize these figures are looking over the landscape. And so,
well, it was not easy to get that, because I had to take all the images from somewhere high, and it was not easy all the time to find the spot that's high. Because if you take the landscape, if you like, I'm used to photograph the landscape from the ground, but it didn't work. Being on the ground, it did not work. Like the images, when they were collaged, it looked funny, and it didn't give a strong statement. They didn't look like they were in the sky. So it was not easy to find the right spot to merge the two. you know, like later, of course, to merge the two in Photoshop. That, you know, like with every series, it takes so much time, because actually many of the series, maybe all of them, of course, like I showed you part of my series, like I had done series that I would spend like hours and days and days and days in the spot to get the feeling of what I want to do for this series or project before I shoot it. Like I wanna like live it. I wanna be in it. I wanna spend some time before I shoot it. And like, for example, for the last part, like now I'm going into the places. I take my camera, but I don't take really images. But I wanna feel the situation. I wanna live it. I wanna be like, so I can reflect it in the story that I want. You know, like as I said before, like I am part of the story, and the story is part of me, you know. And end of the day, those stories are about me. It's true, they are about the land, about my people, but also they are about me, about my experience, and about what I witness, what I live. So spending more time makes me get into it like deep, and do it the way I feel it's supposed to be done, or it should be done.
Yes. So building on that notion of like how you reflect on your work and what you're doing before, we have time for me to ask you about how you, I know we want to show this series, Jerusalem Calling, but how you kept on.
I wanted to leave them with something beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
and we have time for that. So
Yeah.
as you know, you're a professor of photography. You teach in the art
I
department.
teach art. Yeah. I teach
Yes.
art in general. Yeah.
Yes. So how do you pass your knowledge on to your students, all of this, you know, this process of reflection, of being in the space, being in a place, reflecting yourself in the work with your students, and what are you observing as a professor of what this younger generation of artists who are studying with you, what interests them, or what your experience is with them, and what you see will be the future of artists who have studied with you or are currently living in
of course, you know, some of them are experimenting like me and producing haunting pictures and telling the story of Palestine, but also many of them, actually some of them, yeah, they do stories, you know, about themselves, and they go into experimentations a lot with me. And but some of them, you know, they're taking like different paths, like they want to do, for example, about you know, just like any other student in any part of the world, you know. But yeah, some are taking, you know, because they see a lot of my work and they like my work, and then they want to, you know, also do things like that, but in a different way, and they want to do experimentations. So yeah.
That's great. Well, they're lucky to have you as their professor. So I know you wanted to end with this series, Jerusalem Calling, before we close the program. So I'll let you talk about this series, and we'll let viewers listen.
I don't see the speaker. Let me just I don't know. Oh, where is it? How come it's okay. This thing is okay. I don't see the speaker for some reason. I don't know why, because the wind bar, this thing is blocking it. Anyways, like this series, oh, okay, here it is. This series is about the radio artists. It's a long story, but those radio artists, like they were in Palestine, and the British mandate created this radio station for them. They allowed them to like to broadcast the music storytelling, whatever, but they didn't allow them to broadcast any news. But when in the early 40s, when many of the Jewish started to come more and more into Palestine, of course they started before, but they started more and more become the Zionist movement and stuff. The Zionists, they started to broadcast the news and tell the people about what's happening in Palestine. So the Zionists bombed the station, and it was moved from Jerusalem to Ramallah, to Irsal Street, where the station was, and was moved to. So anyways, one day I was walking in the streets of Jerusalem. It was empty. It was haunting, like not many people. So I decided to invite those radio artists to come back to Palestine after 100 years and broadcast their music, for virtually all over. I collected the original music and I broadcast it, which is beautiful music, and I will share with you one or two.
مقدر اقول لك مع السلامة روح مقدر اقول لك حبك اتملك جوا الحشا.
And at this station, like many great musicians were invited from everywhere to sing, like Abdul Wahab, like Kulthum, like I don't know what, like they came and they sang at the station, and they did. So after all, it's all about the people and its land, and the two go together. And we were there. It was not a land without people. It was a land with people, and it will remain a land with its people.
Thank you so much, Rula, for sharing all of these wonderful projects with us and your knowledge and thought process with me and with the audience watching. We do have one question to ask from an audience member. This is a question from a Palestinian journalist who is currently working in the West Bank. What advice do you have for this young generation of journalists who are currently documenting what's happening and experiencing what's happening?
Well, all that I can tell them to stay safe, to try to stay safe. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job, especially after what happened to Shireen Abu Akleh. Like the person, I worked with her. Like we met actually during the negative incursion. We met in different spots.
Oh.
So yeah. This year a lot of depressing stuff happened. Yeah, it's so depressing. Like she's gone. So stay safe. I don't know what else I can tell him. It's not an easy job, I know.
Yeah.
Especially many times they target a journalist.
Well, I want to thank Rula Halawani, our guest today, and I want to thank Layla for having led us in this conversation. This has been such a wonderful discussion to hear and conversation. Thank you, Rula, for sharing all of this work and your beautiful practice that intertwines the personal and the memory with the love of the land and the love of the people and the resilience and all of this in such a powerful, impactful way. Again, I wish we had more time, but everything good has an end and our time has come to an end today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laila.
Pleasure
Thank you, Rula.
on MEI's Arts and Culture platform. Please check our exhibition, check the work of Rula in our exhibition. Come see the show. It closes again on Thursday, November 17th. So you have a couple of days if you're in DC. If not, check the work online on www.mei.edu, Arts and Culture Center, and follow us on social media, Twitter at MEI Arts Culture. With that, I want to thank everyone who's joined us this morning in Washington, DC in the morning, and I wish everyone a lovely rest of day. Thank you.